All right, welcome to the Kubeflow Pipelines community meeting, everyone. Today's date is August 27th, 2025. This meeting is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. The meeting is recorded and will be uploaded to the Kubeflow YouTube account after the call has ended. All right, so I don't think we have any new call attendees, so we will just skip that one. As a reminder that V1 will be sunset at the end of the year. That's the current target unless something changes. So that's 2 releases from now. Some more announcements. We merged the upgrade, or I guess the change switch from Minio to Seaweed FS as the object store that's deployed with the Kubeflow pipelines manifests and Kubeflow platform. Just note that Minio, the ability to deploy using Minio is still there, and we're still testing against it. So then the next release, users will be able to deploy with Minio. Just do note that Seaweed is the default option. So we will have to properly document that for the next release notes so that they know that if they want to deploy using Minio, then that's a opt-in now. Yeah. Also note that the GORM update has been merged as well. So that was a really big change. You can follow along the progress for the follow-up issue, which is adding Postgres support for it. Also, the MLMD removal kept was also merged. So implementation for that has started and it will be ongoing. And our hope is to get that in with the next release. All right, Matt, you have the next topic.
Yeah, I'll get the screen share going. Oh, it's saying that you have to stop screen sharing before I can.
Oh, hold on. There you go.
All right, so I'm trying to, well, for context, I'm trying to add the ability to integrate cleanly with the Kubeflow trainer within KFP. And one of the things that's a common issue with KFP offloading the work to another operator controller by just essentially the component is just submitting like a job as Kubernetes YAML or some other artifact. In the case of the trainer, it's a train job. But users are used to like setting things like CPU requests, memory requests, number of GPUs, etc., on the component or the task, I should say. But when the component is really just submitting another Kubernetes YAML, then you end up applying the GPU and stuff like that to the pod that's just submitting the YAML and waiting. So the idea here is that we would add a new feature where if you specify Kubernetes config as one of the input parameters, well, it doesn't have to be that name, but it's just the type of task Kubernetes config. Instead of applying like the CPU, memory, GPU, etc., on the component here, it would just pass that along as like essentially a dictionary, and you can see the values here. So in the example for the test, I had set the CPU, GPU, mounted some PVCs, node selectors, tolerations, affinities, environment variables, and the PVCs and environment variables are shared, so they're both passed through to this Kubernetes config parameter, but they're also applied on the pod, but all the resources are not. So this would allow me to then parse this and then apply it to whatever Kubernetes object I'm creating. So in my case, it's the train job object from the Kubeflow trainer, because the goal is to set the number of GPUs, CPU, memory, etc. on that. And so the benefit of having it this way rather than custom input parameters being passed in is that we have a consistent API for components that are essentially passed through, where they're offloading the work to some other component, some other controller, and the ones that are actually running the Python code So it's a consistent API. And if you're sharing components as well, then the user doesn't have to know like what the underlying implementation is. They just set their resources like they normally would. Um, so I just wanted to get feedback, I guess, on the idea in general and usefulness, and also just the user experience. And this was heavily the design for this was heavily influenced from the pipeline final status, I think is what it's called, where you put that type in, and it's a special type that gets replaced at runtime with the actual value. So it works the same way. So PR is working, but I need to add more test coverage, and I wanted to get approval on the user experience around this. So I guess any questions for clarification, any comments?
So if we wanted to like have a component that users share between each other, it would look like like let's say you write a component that does a training job and I want to use it, then I would import that component and I would just set my accelerator on that component, and I don't need to know how like what is the underlying implementation of it. It will just like I pick the resources and it just knows how to set those.
That's right, yeah. And I'll show an example of where I am integrating with the Kubeflow trainer. So this is the component that I have. And for each thing I want to like set in terms of resources, it's like I have to provide an input parameter like of CPU request, GPU request, memory request. And then as a user, I need to know how to provide those as parameters rather than like setting them like you would any other component. So like the way it's called, I'll show here. Yeah, so it's like you can see like for my eval step where it's just a normal KFP component, I'm setting the accelerator type, accelerator limit, etc. like normal. But then for the special case, I have to know not to do that, and then I need to provide like special pipeline input parameters, and so that would be different per component. One thing I forgot to mention as well is that the resources, so like here I'm setting like, CPU request limit, memory, etc. Um, I do provide like in the implementation like just a small default on the launcher of like I think like a quarter CPU and like 256 megs of RAM. So essentially just put like a small default, assuming that it's going to be a lightweight container. That's also something we should discuss as well, what the behavior should be.
I don't think I followed that last bit.
Oh, sorry. It's maybe if I show the code, it'd be more clear. Um, so in the case where you're doing that pass through, essentially, I just set like a modest limit,
Oh,
requests and limits on it. So that's not unbounded, because by default it'd be unbounded, but that's a design decision where we could just keep it unbounded
uh,
or
if we're gonna,
configurable.
yeah, I was gonna say if maybe we can surface that as something that can be configured with some reasonable defaults.
Nilesh?
I'm still trying to figure, like, visualize this in terms of how these configurations will be applied when the driver is launched versus when a launcher is launched.
Yeah, so ordinarily, like if you set CPU requests, memory requests, etc., the driver would apply that to the launcher pod. In this case, only the PVC mounts, environment variables, and image pull secrets, I think, are the only ones that get applied to the launcher. the resource things like number of GPUs, etc., node selectors, tolerations, things that are like targeting specific hardware resources on the cluster don't apply to the launcher, and instead they're just passed through to that object here. And so it's up to the component then to use this information to apply it to whatever Kubernetes object they're creating to offload the work to. So in the case of the train job, if I show that, it's essentially like the YAML, or in this case it's JSON, but you would set like the requests for CPU and GPU, etc., would be set here. And then like volume mounts and things like that are set in this pod spec overrides. And so the idea being is that I could take this Kubernetes config that's passed through, and then I can translate that to what the train job expects, create the train job, and then monitor it in the launcher pod.
Okay, so the launcher will just be executing or creating a pod with this spec, right? The launcher won't be executing anything. Its launcher is just creating a pod with this spec in that case.
Well, a train job object. Yeah.
Yeah.
Train job and then monitoring it essentially. Yeah. That would be mostly the implementation. The nice thing about having the PVCs be shared is that the train job can write the fine-tuned model, for example, to the PVC, and then my component can output that as a KFP output artifact. So that way my train job doesn't have to have like S3 credentials and stuff like that to upload the output. So the PVC is just used on both if you want to do like data passing between the two.
I have a question again about the unbounded stuff. So that's for that's defaults, right? For what you would otherwise specify via the SDK on the component that would be passed through.
No, that's to the launcher pod itself.
Oh,
So
okay.
the problem is like in the environments where you have like a limit range, I think is what it's called, where you
Yeah.
requests and limits set. Like this essentially removes the ability to set that on the launcher pod.
Oh, I see. I see.
Because it's just being passed through, because it's assumed that if you're giving it, 5 CPUs or 5 GPUs, you don't actually want the thing creating the train job YAML to
How is it for driver? Do we have it unbounded for driver?
Yes.
So they
So
would hit
maybe I
that
should just leave
problem.
it. Yeah.
So you can set defaults when you use limit ranges. So there are workarounds for that, from what I
Okay.
remember.
So maybe I'll just remove the.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll put a comment here.
And there are a lot of use cases where like it's not just for train jobs. If user wants to specify like a Tecton job or even another Argo workflow, if they ever wanted to do that, or there are other services that do something very similar where they require you to specify resources. So this would be useful for all of these different use cases. We can have like wrapper components.
Yeah, I think Ray is maybe the other one too that I've heard this being a problem. I was hoping that I would come up with a quick example, but
I would honestly be even interested in making these like sort of components part of the SDK or like in some way very easy, just out of the box support. That way, like they're always like we're always testing them and they're always working. We don't do that right now with components.
yeah. So I had a similar thought for the train job. Is it'd be nice if that was like an out of the box one, because as Kubeflow has specific components that are specialized in doing something, then you probably want to leverage that rather than like native KFP. So if you want to do distributed training, you probably don't want to do that in like a KFP component. You want to upload that to the trainer. So So it's like having those native integrations, whether they're in the KFP SDK or Kubeflow SDK, I think makes just a lot of sense.
And especially when there are like other Kubeflow components that we're offering integrations for.
Yep.
Worth thinking about as a follow on to this in the future. This is awesome.
So, oh, thanks. So I guess like questions about like, do we like this behavior where it's like I specify this input parameter and it has this side effect? Like, should it be another option in the component itself to signify that I don't want to apply these resource or like this Kubernetes configuration to the launcher pod?
Is there any impact in the multi-user mode where the launcher may not have, or we may need to provide special permissions to launch a pod?
So it's kind of like like it is today. If your component is creating another Kubernetes object, then your pipeline runner service account has to have permission. So that part of it doesn't change really. And so we could consider adding permissions to out of the box Kubeflow components, like you should be able to submit a train job, for example, in your namespace.
Just remember that you can do all of this today, like Matt showed. It's just very convoluted. It's not like it's like syntactic sugar over things you can do today. So it's not adding any new functionality in that way.
Yeah, it's essentially like using this existing API for setting resources and sending it in as an input parameter rather than applying it all to the pod. And so, yeah, this is like how I chose to document it. So like, I don't know how clear that is. It's like you annotate the component parameter with this, and then it says like essentially the side effect behavior where it's like M volumes and volume mounts are shared to the are also applied to the task pods, but these things are not. Although I think this is incorrect, but
If you could document it in such a way it gets surfaced into the SDK docs, that would be nice. Like the read
yeah,
docs,
yeah,
like with an example.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Um, and then in terms of the format, I just have them as like essentially the same format as they are in like Kubernetes, like pod specs, but they're just top level key values.
Is this
Okay.
oh, this is work in progress. So like I guess once it's ready for review, just let us know. And maybe link it in the Slack channel if anybody wants to add feedback with the example, linked example.
Yeah. Is there, I guess the SDK docs are in the repo, so I should be able to provide
Yeah,
examples in there.
the doc strings basically get converted into like the read the docs on release. So if you can just
Mm-hmm.
include you'll see various examples in doc strings. Like the doc strings are pretty like thorough. They'll show like an example on how you use it, and those get surfaced into the read the docs. So
Yeah, and I can just have like a very simple train job example as one
yeah,
of them. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it. So if the user experience seems good, then I can go make these adjustments and then improve the test coverage and then make it ready for review.
awesome. Thanks, Matt. The next topic it's for I have it. It's for the components repo. So I brought this up in the previous meetings. what I would like to do is remove the components repo from Kubeflow pipelines and move it into its own repository. There's a couple of reasons for this, but just some additional like historical context around the components repo, at least what I'm aware of, since it was added before my time. The components repo is made up of various different Kubeflow Kubeflow pipelines components. You can find them here. Oh, I'm not sharing. Let me share. Zoom is being very slow. There we go. You guys see my screen? Okay, so the components repo is within this path, and it's made up of, so you'll find like an entire directory structure here where you'll find various different folders with owners files. So if you go, I guess maybe not here. So there's one at the root, and then as the deeper in you go, various components will have different owner files. Let's see, maybe this one. They're there. The intuition was basically you would have various users, developers that are contributing their own components, and they'll be able to help maintain this components directory via using the owners file. So you'd have different approvers within the subdirectories, and they would maintain it. And this would help lessen the burden of the primary maintainers to maintain this vast directory structure. So you had folks implementing support for PyTorch, you have Google Cloud Components, and so on and so forth. The issue is that there's a lot of scanning tools, dynamic analysis tools, static analysis tools that also parse this structure, and some of this path is filled with dependency files and what have you, like in your requirements.txt and so on, that are outdated dependencies, and we cannot reasonably keep them all updated. They constantly get caught in like GitHub scanners and other scanning tools. Dependabot is constantly trying to update them, and sometimes it just doesn't work. So that's one reason. The other one is that a lot of these components are just simply outdated. The maintainers are no longer present, and it's not clear. Like we're not testing against them, and it's too much of a maintainer's burden on like primary maintainers to include CI tests and constantly keep them up to date, because that wasn't the primary intention for the components file. So my proposal is to remove these from the KFP repo. I don't think it makes sense to have them in the first place because these are user submitted and they're not part of the core project. Now, in cases like what Matt presented, we can have like out of the box component support for use cases that are extremely popular, and we will be able to maintain them. Like the primary maintainers will be able to maintain them, and the contributors can. And we can even make them part of the SDK, for example. But when it comes to all the components here that don't have this like type of out-of-box support, I think we should just move them off repo so that we can keep the main repository lightweight, and we're only scanning for things that we will fix. Any thoughts, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I would +1 removing the components directory. It creates a lot of noise in the Git history, makes it harder to keep track of what recent changes have gone in.
Yeah. We also have automated merges happening from like a Google bot, which I would like to turn off. I mean, we can keep those going in the repo we move it to. I can sync up with Chen offline for that. But I do recall like he was also in agreement on removing this. Okay, shall we talk timelines?
Yeah, so I think on this, sorry, hi guys. I think I agree 100%. Just one question. Where do you want to move them?
It would presumably be under another repository under Kubeflow org. Now, do you think that would be a controversial
Yeah,
decision.
wondering whether like we want to move them to the Kubeflow contrib, GitHub org, or in the Kubeflow org.
If there's, I didn't even know about a Kubeflow contrib org. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. What is the purpose of this org?
Yeah,
And
I think it's called Kubeflow Incubator, and it was created I think a couple of years ago. Let me double check the name.
oh yeah, this.
Yeah. So I think like some of the folks from TF Job previously, I think from Training Work Europe maintain it. But I think so. I think my question is more: we could definitely create Kubeflow contrib organization, right? Similar to other CNCF project. I'm just wondering, what do you think around where they should live?
I can bring it up in the Kubeflow community call if like other components also see a desire for such a either organization or singular repository. If it's a singular repository like this, I'm looking at this org, it looks kind of like just abandoned.
Yeah, it's abundant, definitely.
Yeah,
It's not being
so
maintained like since 2022.
yeah, so and whether I think one repository where folks contribute to on the Kubeflow org would be my preference, but I think this is probably a broader discussion for other component teams to also like maybe chime in. That would be my preference. I think just in my personal experience, sending people to multiple repositories to contribute is a challenge. It's just a lot easier to keep things in one place.
I think so. I still think we need to have some sort of contrib repository because other projects like Argo maintain it. Because I think all of the initiatives which kind of goes, want to have a place to live, but right now not being actively maintained by the, core, not contributors, but, the working groups and the governments, right? Probably
Right.
should have their own place, right, to live.
Absolutely. 100% agree. So would your preference be to kind of just bring this up in the Kubeflow community call? And like where's like a good location for the Kubeflow pipelines components? And I don't know what other use cases there are for similar things in other component repos, but if there are, then yeah.
Yeah, my perspective, we should definitely bring this to the community call. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, there are other initiatives which can go to the contrib GitHub work if we decide to have it, right? Yeah, I mean, I think overall we need to find people who are willing to, push for it, right? Because, if we just move those components here who have an ownership, right, and etc. So I don't know. There are a lot of open questions, right? I think what
Yeah.
Argo is doing, maybe it's also worth to explore, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I wouldn't want is for us to be blocked on moving these
Yep.
components if we are unable to find like a strict ownership for it,
Yeah,
because
yes.
in the case of KFP, we don't have owners for these anyways, so we wouldn't be any worse off. In fact, it's for us is to like remove the headache of like the scanners and constantly getting caught off and adding noise. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 80%
yeah,
of those components just unmaintained should be removed completely, right? So
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And so in terms of timelines, like what sort of a heads up would folks feel is reasonable? We can announce it in like the discussions, and then we can I mean, I guess we can talk about it in the community call too.
So the
We
only
were,
things that would break is the like the Google automation, and then anyone that is loading the components directly from a URL.
yeah, I would think nobody's doing that in production. Uh, but I think an announcement is worthwhile regardless, and treat it like a deprecation kind of thing.
do we know if Vertex AI have any links to the KFP upstream in their docs?
I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I can just check with Chen and see if he knows of any reason not to do this like within the time frame we allot. So right now I'm thinking 3 months is reasonable, and then I can reach out to the Google maintainer and see if they have any concerns with this time frame. And I can also put a GitHub discussion, link it in Slack, and see if just give folks the opportunity to like raise concerns, and we can extend the timeline if needed. But as a first proposal, is 3 months reasonable? Does that sound scary? Too soon? Okay. That's all we had on the agenda. Does anybody have any other topics they would like to bring up? We have like 7 minutes.
Yeah, maybe quickly. So I cannot say Alex here on the call, right? But we don't have any updates for OpenSSF or KFP yet, right?
Don't have updates for what? Sorry.
For OpenSSF badge for that was required for accreditation.
Where did we leave off there? So I think there were some that I still couldn't reasonably justify updating. I'll follow up, post it in chat, where we left off. I think we were like almost there.
Yeah, I remember Alex told me like a couple of weeks ago that he will allocate some time to work on dependency upgrade for V1, right?
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
I know,
yeah. I think that got merged. I don't know if did he release it? Matt, do you know?
I don't know. Sorry.
Let's see. I believe he did. Let me follow up with Alex and see where we left off there.
yeah.
I'm not seeing it. Okay, so there's a status update pending for the badge rate.
Yeah, and also, like, if I remember correctly, on the UI side, we decided that we're not going to fix them, right, in the near future, all the critical CVs.
Actually, we had a contributor that's helping resolve those. Matt, do you know where we are at with the React upgrade?
I think there was some issues with the container image build. There's like a bunch of linting errors, and so the person was gonna try to fix those. And then I think at that point, it's probably ready for testing.
So is like next release optimistic or reasonable in your mind?
What month are we thinking? The like
End of
November?
October.
Okay.
So actually,
mhm.
yeah, sorry for interrupting. I think so in terms of timelines, so we're planning to finish the audit next week. So the third-party audit, at least maybe the first weeks of September. So after this audit is complete, so we like straight away open the application in CNCF. I guess like if we don't have any blockers, we'll probably just move forward with next steps from CNCF. I don't know how much time it will require from them to do other things. I just don't want us to get blocked on, OpenSSF badge. That is why, again, I think as we discussed before, if it is not feasible, if we cannot fix them soon, we just say that you kind of like it's kind of platform admin's responsibility to provide trusted environment. I think we have a similar problem for other UIs like notebooks, Kdiv, and I think not notebooks, Kdiv, basically exactly the same problem that we're not going to fix them before we graduate, right? Was wondering, like, do you have the same thoughts for KFP, or we should do something else?
What does it mean to so when do you need the badge marked? So you said that the audit is finishing next week, so you need the badge at 100% by next week. Is that
I
how
think
that?
so. Yes. Yes. So like in terms of 2 weeks, when we I think 2 weeks from now, right? I would say we
Okay.
kind of like need to have badges for every project, every
Okay,
Kubeflow
let me
project.
see where we're at with the badge.
I think 91%. I can see.
Hold on. Okay, yeah. projects. Okay. So we're at 91%. What was missing? The analysis. These are not that difficult, but in 2 weeks, I don't know. Do we have any tools that what are so we're missing the static analysis and we're missing so at least one dynamic analysis tool be applied to propose major production release software. Okay. I
I
can
think this
take a
is
look.
already done. So yeah, I think this is done, right? Because okay, static we kind of decide to use Trivi, right?
Privy.
Yeah, I think it's what is it? So we have Fossa, right, which is running right now on KFP as well. So this is for SBOMs, like the
Mhm.
for licenses, right?
Mhm.
I think for CVs, I think we have. Let me clean this issue quickly. 1 second. Yeah, security scans, right? So I'm talking about this issue 885.
Yeah.
Trivi scans,
And
right?
but I think it requires that is applied to any proposed major. I don't know why it keeps resetting my view. 1 sec. It's the analysis tool has to be applied to any proposed major production release of the software before its release. Does that mean we'd have to do a release and prior to that release we apply it a tool? Like I don't know if we've.
I think
I
if we
guess we.
say yeah, good.
Yeah, no, finish with that.
From my understanding, if you run this against master branch,
Yeah.
right, you can justify that we have this for the release.
Okay. And this tool, is this Trivia tool, like how are you guys applying it? Are you running it manually? Do we add a GitHub bot or?
Yeah, we need to set up this as GitHub action, similar to
Okay.
what Spark Operator and Manifest are doing.
Has it been made available in the org? The GitHub app?
Yeah, it's actually just a simple GitHub action, right?
Oh, okay. Okay. Which components? Is there like an example GitHub action that we can
Yeah, I
use?
just send you the community. Let me post it here in the notes.
Yeah, if you can just provide it, and if it's as simple as just adding an action that runs against master, and I mean, we just can't have it be failing. If it is, then we should probably make this into an issue for us to resolve.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that Notebooks Working Group also enable this for V1. So once we have this, maybe we can just reuse the same everywhere, right?
Okay, I'll take a look at this and
Okay.
follow up on the OpenSSF stuff. And I'll sync up with Alex on where he left off with the V1 upgrade. My understanding was he did a release, but I'm not seeing it. All right.
And just to be clear, we're not blocked by the React upgrade, are we? The CV fixes on the UI.
Yeah, so my understanding, Andre, is that the claim being made is, and I can put this in the comments by the other components with similar UI issues, is that this is being delegated to a platform level responsibility to ensure that these issues are resolved, like via, I don't know, gates and policies and what have you.
Yeah, so you basically need to provide a trusted environment, right? And some of
Yeah.
those probably CVs are not even like, don't even apply for the UI, right? Because we need to like someone to take a look on those issues, right? Anyway, I mean, KFP UI can be consumed differently, right? Can be consumed via central dashboard, or it can be consumed as standalone, right? But I think all in all, we have problem for all the Kubeflow UIs, right? So I don't think it's a kind of a blocker for us to redo it, to be honest.
Okay, so say it's a trusted environment is what the other components have been using it when deploying it as a platform.
Yeah, we can just in this
Okay.
leave a comment to say it's a platform engineer responsibility to provide a trust environment, and we like local community cannot guarantee that the UI don't have any CVs, right? Like one of the like I'm not sure yet. Like I think this may be what we can do and then see iterate on this. But
I'm not super concerned about the UI
Okay.
parts because I'm guessing by the time like CNCF even gets around to looking at it, like we will have resolved these issues in the UI, since I don't think we're that far from fixing it. It's just that it's difficult to make a commitment on a timeline. But I think our expectation is that we will resolve this within like the next month or two. It's more the static analysis stuff. So if it's just adding it, I mean, like the hope is that we are doing this against like the releases and not just master. So, but if for this badge thing, the saying it for master is sufficient, we can do that. But I think it is a good practice that in general we should be doing this against our releases. Like I agree with points. So yeah. UICs. Okay, cool. Anything else regarding this?
No, thank you. It was good.
All right. Thanks for bringing this up, Andre, and keeping us on our toes. Thanks everyone for joining the call. As always, this call was recorded and will be uploaded to the Kubeflow YouTube account. Thanks for joining. See y'all next time. Take care.